What's going on, guys? This video is called Leave the World Behind and Focus on Yourself. And I truly believe this is one of my magnum opus videos. This is the kind of thing that you guys are going to want to watch over and over again. It is one of my more tactical videos that is genuinely designed to help you transform as a man and become the best version of yourself. This video is going to explain to you how a 6 to 12 month period of locking in will change your life. And this is literally what I have done to go from, at 20 years old being a virgin who drank all the time and smoked weed and had no purpose and didn't really know what he was doing with his life to the man I am today, who is building businesses, who makes good money for himself, who's in fantastic shape, who has confidence with women, who is living a purpose-filled life and genuinely feels good about himself. This is what I have done to cause this transformation to happen in my life. The transformation I have made in my life has happened through periods of 6 to 12 months of isolating myself from negative influences and focusing on becoming a new version of myself. I'm going into one of these phases right now. And at the end, I'm going to share with you my process. So basically what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to explain all the shit you need to understand about why this is going to change your life. And then at the end, I'm literally going to walk you through what I'm going to do. And there's going to be a lot of tactical game in this video. This might be a pretty long one, to be honest. Now, the one thing we all have in common is we don't want a normal life. If you watch my channel, you do not want a normal life, because you would fucking hate me if you want a normal life, because all I do basically on this channel is talk shit about a normal life. And what I mean by that is you don't want shit like this. You do not want to be like our boy Beer Gut. You don't want to be somebody with some soul-killing job working in a fucking cubicle like that, looking like the Fight Club guy with that dead in the eyes, passionless, purposeless life where you just kind of, wake up, pay your bills, and die. Like, you don't want that life. You don't want to deal with women who don't respect you or be in a spot where you have no options with women. You don't want to be making the average American income of $39,982 per year. Now, why did I put this slide on here? Because this is the life for 99% of people. And you need to understand that because you are literally programmed to end up like this. This shit right here, the classroom and the media, they have programmed you to be the normie person. That is why people end up that way. They end up that way because they get fed a bunch of shit from society, and then they just go live their lives very unconsciously following those programs, and that leads to the normal life results. The classroom is literally built on the Prussian model of creating people who are loyal to the government. That is what the U.S. government's education system was built off of, the Prussian model. The Prussian model, not to get too far into the weeds, but literally what was formerly Germany, which was Prussia, had an issue with getting people who were willing to go fight for the king. And so they created the education system in Prussia, which was designed to create loyalty to the king. They took that system, applied it into the US, and then they also applied in stuff like, trying to create factory workers, essentially, because that's when the education system was made. And that's why they've got the bell system. And that's why you've got like all the instruction you have to follow. This is also why you pledge allegiance to the flag at the beginning of class, all that kind of shit. Like, you're literally programmed as a child to basically become a loyal factory worker who does what you're told. And then the media is going to program you to be like fucking Prince Charming right here. And they're going to tell you that's what a woman wants. But then we know in reality, doing that kind of shit never gets you what you want with women. And so my point is, like, you are literally programmed to end up like a normal person. You are programmed to be broke. You are programmed to be a servant. You are programmed to be a nice guy. All of this shit makes sense that you're programmed this way. Like, it makes sense that this is how life is for most people because we're programmed this way. And if you're in that same kind of spot, you need to understand this. And this is going to be extremely relevant to the topic of this video. If you want to change your life, you have to deprogram all of this and become a new man. That is really the big message of this video and the thing that we're going to be focusing on, how you actually go about doing. And you know this on a certain level. You know that you need to change as a man. There's this yearning inside of you to change, to bring something out of yourself that you know is in there deep down. And we know this because every time somebody puts out a video called like disappear for 6 to 12 months or go ghost or whatever. Like, I titled this one, Leave the World Behind and Focus on Yourself. I bet that title's going to do well. All of these videos do well because deep down, guys know there's something within them that they need to bring bring out. And there's almost this like pull within you to be like, I need to get away from everything, lock the fuck in, find myself, and drag this better version of myself out, because you see everything around you and you're like, this is not it. You're not where you want to be, and you see where life is headed. That is why you have this yearning. You're just like in this spot where you're like, my life is not what I want it to be. I've got all this shit in my head that's fucking me up. I keep going through my life and having all these, situations where it's not what I want it to be. And it's just a mess. You want to change because you know there's more to you than the life you're living. That's the big point of that. Like maybe, again, you were probably programmed on all this normie shit, and you watch my content and you're probably like, yeah, I need to get off of this. But like you feel stuck in it. And you know you need to change. You know there's more to you out there. Yet, here's what the thing is. Most people have transformation all wrong. So they know there's something in them they want to bring out. They know there's like a better version of themselves. They know they don't want the normal life. But when they think about transformation, they think about stuff like this. They think about going on like the Aspire tour, which is like just these conferences, right? They think about conferences, motivation, right? I love David Goggins, but like just these kind of conferences aren't going to change your life. You know what I mean? Tony Robbins seminars do seem to motivate people for a bit, but it's like, is going to a seminar actually going to change you at the deepest level? Or they think that transformation involves watching motivational montage videos like this. They think that if I just get motivated enough, I will change my life. This is what people think. They think it's about conferences. They think it's about rah, fuck yeah, we're going to change our lives. But like people don't change their lives from this shit. We know this. This clearly doesn't work. These motivational montage videos will have millions of views on them. How many people are realistically changing their lives? Not millions, okay? So we know that this shit doesn't really work. So what does actually transform your life? It's this right here. It's looking at yourself in the fucking mirror and realizing you are your worst enemy, realizing you are responsible for where you're at in life. It is that heart to heart. It is that looking in the mirror. Even Goggins, who does the motivational shit, like if you read his book, this was the moment for him. He literally calls it the accountability mirror. Like he had to look himself in the mirror at 300 pounds and see the Navy SEALs that he could be and be like, dude, you are fucked up, man. And it is that moment where change starts to happen. It is that moment where you look and it's like, maybe it's for you, it's your fitness or it's your career or it's with women or it's everything, whatever it is. But you look and you're just like, God, this is fucked. And it is that moment where you actually transform your life. It is not in the rah-rah. It is in that somber look in the mirror, realizing you are your own worst enemy and you are fucking yourself up. Transformation happens when you realize all the problems in your life are stemming from inside of you. It's the thoughts you think, the habits you formed, and the beliefs that you hold. You have to understand this. Like, the way you're thinking is producing all of your problems. It just is. It's like you don't even notice this, but like, let's say it's, you're not motivated to go to the gym. Well, the reason you're not motivated to go to the gym is not because the gym is intrinsically something that you couldn't be motivated to do. It's because you have a thought that you're used to thinking that you don't even notice you're thinking, which says, I don't feel like going to the gym. That sounds hard, right? And it tells you this stuff, and then your body is so used to thinking this way, it is literally baked into your nervous system and your subconscious mind to just accept this as truth and then act on it. And so you've got all these things. Again, this is why I mentioned the education system and the media. You've got all this shit that is baked into you at an early age and throughout your entire life that is designed to fuck you up. And that leads to thoughts, habits, and beliefs that give you shit in life. And they're things you don't even notice because they are so ingrained in you. These things torment you because you aren't even conscious of them. What does it look like to be tormented by your thoughts, habits, and beliefs? It looks like this pattern right here. You've got some sort of unconscious pattern in your life, something that is going on. It's a belief, it's a habit, it's a thought, something like that. And it leads you to a bad outcome in life, which is just something you don't want to have happen. And then that bad outcome produces pain. This makes you feel like a victim because you're unconscious. And because you're unconscious, you don't realize how this is self-inflicted. And because you don't realize that it's self-inflicted, you attribute the bad outcome to something outside of your control. So you have an unconscious pattern leading to a bad outcome, which leads to pain for you, which leads to feeling like a victim because you don't realize you are responsible for the bad outcome. And then you just go through this cycle over and over and over again in your life. Here's an example of how this would look. Let's say you've got nice guy behaviors that you're programmed with. These behaviors lead to you being rejected by women. And then that rejection leads to pain. You're sad, you're dejected, you're confused, all this shit, which leads to a victim story. And that victim story could be anything from turning into one of these black pill guys who believe it's not because you're 6'4". It's if you were 6'4", you would get girls, or it's modern women suck, or it's like, I'm just not the kind of guy that women like. It's like, whatever it is, like, some insert your bullshit here. And you just keep rolling through this thing over and over and over again. And people just keep, like, they don't understand why they keep getting the same results over and over and over again for years in their life. And it's because they're running this pattern right here. Here's another one. I don't feel like working out. This attitude, this thought, this belief in your head leads to you being undisciplined and out of shape. This makes you feel bad. This is pain for you, which creates a victim story, which is, I'm just not the kind of guy who likes to work out. I'd love to be in shape, but I just don't like working out. And see how you just keep running this fucking loop over and over and over again. You just keep doing this shit. And this is what most people are stuck in. Every problem in your life follows this cycle. You are tormented by unconscious patterns that cause you to play the victim, and you don't even realize it. That's so important to understand. You are a victim because you don't realize how you are responsible for your problems. And so you play the victim to these things, and you feel tormented by them because you feel like you can't get out of it, because you don't realize that something unconscious within you is the problem. And you see this all the time. And this is how somebody outside of you can very easily see how to fix your problem, right? I had this conversation with a guy in my school community today. We were on the call, and he's working on trying to get through some like nice guy behaviors and things like that he hasn't trained them out. And he mentioned something like, I don't want to be a dick. And I told him, I was like, even that thought right there, I don't want to be a dick, is an unconscious pattern. You were programmed to think that, quote, being a dick is the same as standing up for yourself. Most nice guys have that pattern. And so he's not standing up for himself. He's not getting the results in his life he wants because he has an unconscious belief saying, I don't want to be a dick, therefore I'm going to be this nice guy who doesn't stand up for himself. And then he consistently gets bad results with women, or he consistently gets less respect than he wants. And he's starting to notice these things. He's doing the right work and stuff like that. But I just pointed it out to him. And that's just an example of like, this guy is literally like living a life lower than he wants to live, like a lesser version of himself, because of an unconscious pattern that I had to point out to him right there and be like, dude, you have this belief that makes you think that being a dick equals standing up for yourself. And that is causing you to be a pushover. That is causing you to not get what you want out of relationships and things like that, which is making your life worse. And then you're confused as to why you're not getting the results you want. And it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you when it's not you. It's a pattern inside of you. It is something programmed into you. You got to understand this. That's why I'm harping on it. And I want to take the stigma out of playing the victim and realize it's something we all do. We are operating on this cycle. When we're operating on this cycle, excuse me. Why do I want to take the stigma out of being a victim? Because, you know, when people say don't play the victim, this has gotten to this thing where people's ego gets involved. If I say you're being a victim, you start feeling like it threatens your ego, because nobody wants to admit that they are a victim. Nobody wants to admit that they are playing the victim, because this has been so stigmatized in our culture, and rightfully so. You know, you don't want to be a victim. But you got to understand that being a victim is a natural thing that the ego does. Your ego is constantly looking to play the victim to things. It is always looking to play the victim. Every element of your ego, whether it's fear is about being victimized by something outside of your control. Anger is you being the victim. Somebody screwed you over. Pride is even a victim mentality. It's about this feeling of being threatened by somebody else and posturing. You don't have strength in yourself, and so you need to compare yourself to somebody else. This is the kind of, like, you got to understand that, like, being a victim is a natural thing the ego does. And so we need to take the stigma out of it so we can all accept that at different times in our lives, we play the victim. We all do this. I still do this in certain areas. This is just how it is. The default is to play the victim. Until you realize where you are responsible for the problem, you're going to play the victim to it. And it just it plays out like this over time. And this is also why you'll be able to see where somebody's playing the victim, but you can obviously see where they were responsible for the problem. Well, that happens at every level, and everybody's dealing with this. You know, there are certain people who are so good financially that they can look at somebody who struggles financially and they can be like, well, it's your fault because of X, Y, Z. And it's because they're not playing a victim in that area. Meanwhile, that person is so stuck in the victim story, they could even be doing okay financially. Let's say they're making $80,000 a year, but this guy's making millions, and the $80,000 a year person's complaining about how they can't get more money and they could never make that kind of money. And the multimillionaire's looking at him and it's like, well, it's because you did this, this, and this. And that guy just doesn't realize it because he hasn't taken responsibility for how he's in that situation. Okay, so you got to understand, take the stigma out, just acknowledge you play the victim if you don't personally understand why you are responsible for something. Until you realize how you're responsible for the problem, you're never going to actually stop playing the victim. We all play the victim when we are unconscious of how we cause our own problems. You got to understand that. Until we are so sick of ourselves and our bullshit, we are going to play this cycle out. So basically, the way it works is you're playing out that cycle I showed, and you keep playing it out. You keep playing it out. You keep playing out. You're getting a result you don't like. And eventually you get so fed up with the result. And so like you've seen this fucking track so many times. You've gotten rejected so many times by the girl. You've been made fun of so many times for being out of shape. You've been struggling to pay your rent so many times. Whatever it is, at any level, you're just so tired of that thing that you start to look at it more objectively. You take yourself out of it and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is total bullshit. Why does this keep happening? And that's like a moment of awareness that starts to occur where you are sick of your shit. And so you can step back a little bit and start to look at it a little bit more objectively rather than just unconsciously doing it over and over and over again. So what does it look like when we get sick of our own shit? It looks like this. It's the same pattern, except we've taken victim out and we've put awareness/responsibility in there. So the way it works is you've got an unconscious pattern, produces a bad outcome, which produces pain, but this time you become aware. You're aware of how you caused this to happen, and you take responsibility for that, and this breaks the pattern. You got to understand that. So here's an example, like going back to the nice guy behaviors. Nice guy behaviors lead to rejected by women, which leads to pain. And then you realize my behavior is the problem. It's not my victim story. You realize, oh, the reason I keep getting these results is because I keep acting needy around women. Oh, the reason I keep getting this is because I keep blowing up her phone trying to get into a relationship with her if she doesn't text me back every 5 seconds. It's like you start to notice it. Oh, I have no backbone. That's why I'm getting these results. And that's a moment of awareness. And then you start to look at your behavior and you can go make a behavior change. And that's why I put the red X there. You broke the pattern. And it doesn't happen overnight. Usually awareness is gradual. It starts slow. And then there's this moment where it's like snaps. And you're like, oh, like it's like you get far enough out of it mentally where you can see the pattern. You can see it happening. You can see what you're doing to cause this because you've had enough reps at it to notice it. And then you start to change it. And it's going to feel weird at first. And then over time, you're able to just change behavior and change who you are as a person. Again, going back to the workout one, I don't feel like working out, leads to undisciplined and out of shape, leads to pain. And then you realize this is just a habit. I'm in the habit of not working out. I'm in the habit of telling myself that I don't like working out. You can tell yourself basically anything and over time convince yourself of it. You know, I know this because there's guys in my school community who didn't work out regularly when they joined. And now it's like they tell me, they're like, it's such an ingrained habit that I'm going to work out every day that I can't imagine not doing it. Behavior change is clearly possible. So if you're out there telling yourself, I don't like to work out, I can't get in the gym, trust me, you're telling yourself a victim story right there. That's an unconscious pattern that you have running, which is giving you a result you don't want in your life. You could change it. Realize you are so used to your own bullshit that you think it's real. That's really important because I'm going to say that right there and somebody's going to be like, nah, man, you don't get it. I actually don't like working out. And I'm like, you're so used to saying this bullshit to yourself that you don't even realize that it's bullshit. You're so closely identified with it. And people do this in every area. Like people love their victim stories. And again, take the stigma out of it and understand we all do this. You are in traffic and somebody cuts you off. You actually like being angry. You're playing the victim in that moment. You're like, oh, fuck this guy, right? He cut me off. He wronged me. I've been victimized here. And you get mad, right? We all do this. That is like a little mini moment of you enjoying being the victim. Our ego likes being the victim because it gets a lot of juice out of this shit. And so it will hang on to these stories that keep you in a shitty spot. And you're super attached to these things all of the time. I told you, I'm going fucking deep on this one, guys. This is like my favorite subject on the low to talk about. This is so important to understand. Like seriously, like you are completely attached to your own bullshit and it's wrecking your life. People will be like, well, this is just the way I am. That is you basically saying, this bullshit that I'm spewing is so closely attached to my identity that I can't imagine living without it. That's what they're saying. I like this bullshit so much that I'm not letting it go, even though it's wrecking my life. They are so tied up on this shit. You see it very plain as day with like normal people and money. You know, the more I develop, like, because I've had to deprogram myself from the normie money mindsets over time. And the more I look at normal people, I realize 95% of the population is running on this like very victim mentality with money kind of thing. They're always in this victim mode, always in scarcity. And the more I'm out of that now, the more I can see how totally insane it is. And you start to see the bullshit over time. You can recognize this, but you got to understand, if your life's not where you want it to be, it's because you're attached to your own bullshit and you're not letting it go. You got to realize that. You think your bullshit's real. You think being rejected by women is just who you are, and you look to something external to change things, or you play the victim, meaning you're not putting the microscope on yourself. You're not turning this thing back on yourself. You're looking outwardly. You're like, I'm screwed because of this thing, or, I just need to go get in shape to get women. And, I'm all for getting in shape, but what happens is like people will have these externals that they're blaming for their problem. And even if they go get the external, they usually haven't fixed the actual internal problem that was causing things in the first place. And so maybe it fixes things, but usually they find a new way to self-sabotage because they still haven't changed their own identity deep down. They're still running the wrong programs. And so this is kind of what people do. They're attached to their bullshit. They're not looking at themselves. They're looking outside and blaming somebody or something like that. You think the normie 9-to-5 life is just how it is for you. People will say this, be like, I could never run a business. I'm like, why? I'm not saying everybody needs to run a business, but that statement, I could never run a business. Realize that is just a thought in your head that you have said so many times that it just feels familiar to you. There's no objective truth to that thought. I could never. Aren't there things you've probably thought you would never do in your life that you ended up doing? You know what I mean? I bet a lot of people would have said, like there's guys who have been like addicted to porn forever. I bet when you told them at like 15 years old or whatever, when they found porn, I bet they would have been like, I could never do this for the rest of my life. And here they are like 30 years in, right? So like there's a negative example of how that works. But like people do this shit all the time where they've got a thought in their head and they like, I could never be this way. I could never do this thing. And eventually they change. So we understand the thoughts are just bullshit, but the problem is you're so tied up to your own bullshit and it feels so familiar to you that you don't recognize that it's bullshit. You think being lazy and undisciplined is just who you are. Again, another example of this. All of this is just unconscious bullshit that you have identified with. Then you try to use things like motivation to change. This is what people do, right? Like what happens is maybe like they get sick of like not getting what they want in life, but they haven't turned the microscope around and looked at themselves to realize I'm the problem. And so what they do is they try to change the external world without changing themselves internally, and they use motivation to do this. And this is where we go with like back to the Aspire tour that I was mentioning, or the motivational montages and all this kind of shit. But the problem is motivation doesn't solve your root problem. And this is why motivation can't really cause a change like that, because this is your real problem right here. Motivation does not change the unconscious pattern. You get what I'm saying? So you try to use motivation, and all you really do is kind of fight against the unconscious pattern for a bit, but you end up losing because it's baked in deep, and motivation is not that deep. Motivation is you trying to fight the unconscious pattern instead of changing it. Motivation can't cause real change. It can only provide emotional fuel to briefly rise above certain unconscious patterns. So like, let's say you tell yourself, I'm not the kind of person who likes to work out. I'm not motivated to go to the gym, or I don't like going to the gym. But you get motivated and you go to the gym for like 2 or 3 days in a row because you had the emotional fuel that you were running off to rise above the pattern for a couple days. But eventually you just settle back into the pattern because you didn't change the unconscious thing. You just rose above it for a couple days thanks to being on the right emotional fuel. The only way to truly transform yourself is to deal with your own bullshit at the source. And the only way to do this is to leave the world behind and focus on yourself, going back to the title. This is what this is all about. You have to escape. You have to get out of the world to do this. Seriously, this is what I've done. When I have transformed my life, it was about getting away from all the old shit. Leave the world behind and focus on yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you become a hermit for 6 to 12 months. But what it does mean is you got to get all the old bullshit out of the way. You need a new angle, a new view on yourself and your life. You need all the shit that is tying you to the past. You need to get it out of the way so you can change yourself. Seriously, this is why like two of the biggest transformations I've made in my life were one when I moved across the country to Houston, Texas. Completely different state, completely different environment, completely different friends, completely different routine. Changed a lot of things about myself. When I moved across the state to go to college for a year, that was one of these big transformational moments. Again, getting out of my environment. I'm not saying you have to move across the country or anything like that. This can be done in other ways, but that's just a good example of how like you have to get away from all the old shit. You got to leave that behind and focus on improving yourself. You got to look inward at you rather than looking outside and being tied up on your old bullshit. Leaving the world behind means getting rid of everything tying you to your old self. That means things like, friendships. That means, old behaviors that you had. That means even family and things like that. I'm sorry, but like sometimes this has to be done, like every great person has had to do this kind of shit. If you go look, seriously, Jesus Christ had to go out in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. The Buddha did the same thing, you'll hear it from literally everybody. Conor McGregor, he has the quote where he's talking about there was no outsiders. It was visualization. It was dedication. It was putting in that work. Like he talks about this, like everybody who does something great leaves the world behind to focus on themselves. You have to do this. You have to get away from your old self. In order to change your unconscious patterns, you need to be left alone with yourself. This is the important thing. Like, we're so preoccupied with all the old shit in our lives, the habitual like things we do. We go to the same fucking restaurant with the same person. We talk about the same bullshit. We watch the same YouTube videos. We, hang out with the same people. We talk about the same things. Like everything's the same and it's all external. And so you never look at yourself. You have to get away from all of that, change everything going into your head and focus on being a different person by being alone with yourself so you can actually look at your own bullshit. This is so important, guys. Seriously, this will change your life. You have to create a vision of the new version of yourself, and anything that is tying you to the old you needs to be removed. That's what you have to do for this period. You got to get it all away from you because it's not in alignment with the version of yourself that you are going to become. Understand that. What happens when you do this right is you become aware of the old unconscious programs holding you back and you change them. So here's how this would look. Like right now, this is the old you. You've got your old beliefs, inputs, people, habits, thoughts. You've got all that shit going into your head. This is what you're running on every single day. All this shit you've been programmed with that has kept you in the situation you're in right now, which if you're watching this video to this point, you must not like it that much. If you loved your life, you would have already exited this video. In this state, you are purely unconscious. You are just doing what you've always done, and it's going to keep getting you what you've always gotten. Now, what we've done here is we introduce the new you, which has different beliefs, different inputs, different people it's around, different habits, different thoughts. And now we've got both of these things going into your head. And what this does is the old and new create contrast, allowing you to begin to notice how the old you was sabotaging you. You'll start to see this. So like, for example, let's say that you're trying to be somebody who's getting in shape and you've never been in shape before. The old you has this habit of eating certain foods, and the old you has this habit of skipping the gym, sleeping in, whatever the fuck it is. And then the new you is disciplined. The new you eats right. The new you trains hard. And you create these visions of yourself. It's deeper than motivation. It's not like motivation to go to the gym. It's deeper than that. It's a new version of yourself that you have conjured up in your head, a vision of who you could be. And you've created that, and that creates contrast because then you go take action on that. You go to the gym and you are met with this wall of bullshit from your old self. You'll see this happen. People notice this. And what happens is you go to the gym and your body's like, oh, let's leave earlier, whatever. And like you get up one day and like you just feel like skipping the gym, or you feel like eating a fucking donut. Like you'll just notice these things all welling up in you. And all that is old unconscious bullshit trying to drag you back to who you've been. But you'll start to notice it because you've created the contrast now, because you know who you want to be and how that person behaves. And so now you can feel all this shit. You can notice these habitual behaviors that are trying to come up, and you'd be like, hold the fuck up. What is all of this? And you start to create that contrast. This is a huge moment for you. Seriously, this is how it goes. You cannot have the contrast until you first know who you want to be. This is what it creates awareness of the problem. With enough time and focus, the old self falls away and you become the new version of you. What this looks like is you take a step back from old patterns. You realize they aren't you. They are just patterns running in your mind that you identified with. This is how this works. So like you just over time, you just start to be like, hang on, I keep doing this thing. Oh, hang on, I keep showing up in this certain way, which is getting me these results. And that's not in alignment with who I'm trying to be here. I've taken responsibility for changing myself. I'm the problem. And I'm noticing here's how I'm fucking myself up. And that's how this starts to work. And this is what happens over time is you just cross out the old you. It becomes like this relic from the past that you can't even remember. I don't even remember what it was like to be a drunk pothead at 20 years old. I don't even know. This is such a different guy. Like his world was so different. His mind was so different. The way he viewed things, his habitual thoughts and patterns, his default reactions, everything like is so different than it is today for me because I've become aware and I changed who I was. For most people, you need 6 to 12 months to do a full transformation of yourself. So how do you actually do this tactically? Well, here's what I'm doing, and we're going to go into this process now. First step, you need a vision. Create an ultimate vision for your life and the man that you want to be. This is something that you need to get crazy detailed on. And it's not about like a wish list. It's not like I want $1 million. It's deeper than that. It is about you, the man. Okay? It is about like... Yes, it's about external things that we want. You want to put those things in there, but it's who are you in that world? You got to get deeper than just wanting some shit. Because again, we are changing the core of you, and the core of you is all that unconscious bullshit that's been wrecking your life. We're getting that out of here. We're putting new stuff in. Get a very detailed vision of who you want to be. Write this out in detail as if it is your current reality. So the way I do this is what I do is I write it in like would it be second person? I guess I use you. I use the term you instead of I because I'm reading this to myself, right? So I'm like, you did these things, you accomplished this goal. Like for example, for me, one thing I'm working on building right now is I really want to blow this YouTube channel up. I want to build a massive brand around this idea of life maxing and basically just the general concept of like fuck normal, right? Fuck a normal life, fuck everything to do with normal. We're doing shit differently. And all the shit I've been working on and stuff I've been doing behind the scenes and the plans I'm laying down all tie into this ultimate version of myself. And so I'm saying stuff like, you built this massive brand, like you did this, you're pushing the culture, you are the one that's driving the conversation, you are changing lives. Like that's how I'm saying it. So when I'm reading it back to myself, or here in a second, I'm going to explain this audio track thing that I did that I recommend you do. It's getting pumped into my head, telling me these things about myself. And so you want to get really in detail about this, all of the shit involved in it. Like, who do you want to be, this ultimate version of yourself? And don't settle for something mediocre. It needs to be a big vision, because otherwise when you get into the challenge of doing this thing, you'll quit. You have to do this from a space of like serious commitment, like to something big. It needs to motivate the fuck out of you. It needs to be the ultimate version of yourself, okay? Now, what you're going to do now is create an audio track of yourself reading your vision. This is something I got from Jack Hopkins, so credit to him for this. I thought this was a really good idea. So basically what you do, I think I put it here, like what you're going to do is you're going to read this vision out to yourself. So you're going to type the whole thing down. And mine was like 5 pages, guys, just letting you know. It's like 5 pages. It's 15-point font, but it was still 5 pages that I wrote out here about myself, just so you understand how detailed we want to get here. You're going to write out your ideal day. What does that look like? And that includes work. Don't do this like it's fucking vacation day margaritas, because that's not normal life. What would the typical Tuesday of your ideal life look like, basically? Write that shit down, top to bottom, in detail. Get clear on this shit. Get the vision in your head. You're going to write all that down, and then you're going to read it off to yourself on a track. Like you're going to record it, okay? You're going to record this, record it into your phone, record it on your computer, doesn't matter. Just record it, and in between while you're doing it, you can add commentary. So for me, I'll be like, yo, think about what I just said. You literally did this. I'm talking to myself because I'm going to be playing this in my earbuds 3 times a day as I'm getting ready to explain. So you do all this stuff, you create this audio track, and then what you're gonna do is put high vibrational music on it. So it's like that, just to literally type in high vibrational music on YouTube and you'll hear like the like aura kind of sounding shit, right? Just puts you in the right frame of mind. And you put that on the background and you're gonna create this file and it's got you talking with the background music on it. And you're going to just play this thing. Mine's literally 15 minutes long, just so you understand like the depth we're trying to get here. And you're going to play this 3 times per day. You're going to play this first thing when you wake up. You're going to play it at some point in the middle of the day, and you're going to play it before you go to bed. You're going to lay on your bed. You're going to close your eyes. You're going to visualize this shit while it's being told to you. And I'm telling you, I've only been doing this a few days, and I noticed, I was like, okay, this is good. Because I've always known like visualization and all that kind of shit. I've always been serious about that stuff. But this made it way easier because I didn't have to sit there and concentrate. It was being fed to me and fed to my subconscious, which is really the point we're trying to get at here. This will begin to bake the new you into your subconscious mind. Because you're spending, in my case, and it should be pretty close for you, I'm spending 45 minutes a day with my eyes closed, visualizing and being reaffirmed of the ultimate version of myself, living my ultimate day. And you're baking this into your subconscious, which is where all this bullshit is currently living. And so now you're feeding something different in there so you can change the programming, so you can change your automatic behavior, so you can change the way you're seeing things. And what happens when you do this is it creates that contrast, because now you've got this one version of yourself in your head, which is starting to become crystallized, which is the new you, and it is at war with the old version of yourself in your head. And this is actually a lot of mental turmoil comes up from this, because it's basically a battle going on in your head to decide who the fuck you are. And this is where like this is why, again, you need to be left the fuck alone to do this, because you need enough separation from the old so you can make this happen. You can't be tied into all the old shit and people who are reaffirming the old version of yourself. You have to transform yourself through isolation and going to war with the old version of yourself. And this is what this looks like. As this happens, you will create contrast and begin to see all the ways you are sabotaging yourself. So you'll start to do this and you'll start to notice how, like, maybe let's say that you're trying to start a business. You want to quit your 9 to 5 and start a business, and like the old version of you was constantly in this mental masturbation mode where he would like look at business ideas and think about it and do all this shit, but he would never do anything. Now the new you comes in, and your vision to yourself is you literally telling yourself you are running $1 million a year company. Like, you are doing this on a daily basis. You are making the decisions, you are selling the product, you are doing whatever that is. And so now you've got this contrast where it's like, well, fuck, like this version of myself would be doing this right now. And you start to see where like I am avoiding taking action, maybe because of fear of failure, or maybe because I'm comfortable, but you'll start to notice that you're doing this shit. And that's when you can choose to make a different choice. You can act differently. Step 2, you need to remove the old. I thought this Conor McGregor tweet was just the perfect example of this. He tweeted this in 2013, so before he became a champion. So this is what he was on his rise to being a champion. He said, isolation, visualization, motivation, dedication, no outsiders. You got to remove all the bullshit and focus on that. Literally, if you just do that right there, isolate, visualize, motivation. I know I was giving motivation shit, but basically just be like, I think what he means by this is basically focus on the vision, get up and get after it. I think that's what he means by that. Dedication, you're staying disciplined, you're on it, on this thing, you're taking it seriously. No outsiders. I mean, you just get all the outside bullshit out of there. We cannot have that shit in here. It will just fuck you up. Anything not tied directly to your vision is distracting it from you. And the most important thing with this is focus. Focus is absolutely key to transformation. This takes time. This is not an overnight fix. Anybody who's telling you all this transform your life in 30 days bullshit, they're fooling you. You can't transform yourself in 30 days. What happens, because people will make progress in 30 days, what happens is they did all this mental work first that I'm describing to you here. They changed themselves internally, and then the external world changes pretty quickly after that. Like, if you change from somebody who doesn't work out to somebody who takes training very seriously and their diet very seriously, you can get like a pretty big transformation in 30 days, actually. Like, it's very doable. There's guys in my school community who have changed pretty radically over 60 days. We do a 60-day challenge in there for everybody. It's like, if your head's in the right place to do it already, then you can fucking change very quickly. But the thing is, like, you're not actually going to change in 30 days. What happened is, like, you spent all this time getting through your bullshit, and then the external transformation happens pretty quickly, but the internal transformation happened first. If you're half-assing this, you'll never make it. And I put that on here because people always want to make these excuses. They'll be like, well, can't I just keep this in? Can't I just keep that in? Can't I just keep dating this girl? Or can't I keep doing all this shit they want to keep in? And I'm like, why do you want to keep that in? You clearly don't like your life, and you're so committed to holding on to this thing that is tied to the old version of you. I don't understand it. You cannot do this half-assed. You have to be serious about this. This is why, again, you will see this like Star Wars. Luke Skywalker has to go to Dagobah, right? Was it Dagobah that he went to where Yoda is and he learns from Yoda, right? He had to travel across the fucking galaxy to go learn from this hermit on a swamp planet. I know it's a movie, but the point still stands. Everywhere you look, people who transform themselves, they knew they had to take it seriously. They had to do this. If you really want to change, you really want to become a new version of yourself, it has to be you go into the fucking cocoon and you come out a butterfly. This is how it goes. Again, Jesus, 40 days in the wilderness. Matthew McConaughey actually talks about this in his book. He had to go to like the Amazon rainforest to find himself after he had his first breakthrough movie. He felt totally lost in life and he was trying to like find his bearings. And he literally just went to this like tribe in the Amazon for multiple, I can't remember how long he was there, a few weeks or something like that. And like he went through this like ritual basically to find himself. It wasn't like some fucking psychedelic shit, but he just basically was so lost into who he was. He had to go find himself and reinvent himself to like get his bearings on fame, pretty much. Like this is what people do. This again, McGregor, fighters, they always have fight camps. It's all this shit. You have to do this. And if you're half-assing it, you're never going to make it. Step 3, mental work. What does mental work look like? It looks like mindfulness meditation. This is an essential thing. You gotta like, if you're gonna become aware of your thoughts, your habits, your programs, you need to be able to take a step back from your unconscious way of living. Most people just go through their day-to-day life on autopilot. They're not thinking about it. What mindfulness meditation does is it allows you to start noticing all of this shit happening. You're more of the observer and less like enthralled in it. You can start to notice yourself doing shit. And you're just like, what the fuck was that? And you start to see it. You'll see the people-pleasing behavior that you do that gets you treated like a beta male. You'll see that weird text or that weird thing you did with that girl that caused her to reject you. You'll start to see that impulse inside of you to eat the junk food. You'll start to see that impulse inside of you to keep checking your phone. And you'll be like, why do I keep checking my phone so many fucking times a day? You'll start to notice this shit more. But you got to step back from it to do it. Number 2, having the right mental diet. Mental diet is the same as physical diet. If we understand that what you put into your body is going to change the way your body looks, how would it be any different with your mind? What you put into your mind is going to manifest in how you're thinking, how you're acting, how you view yourself. You got to change your mental diet. You know, like this means cut out the politics, cut out the sports, cut out anything that's not got to do with you being the best version of yourself and being this ultimate version of yourself. That means you're reading the right books, you're learning the right things, you're doing the right stuff. Your mind is in the right headspace. You got to do this, and it just pumps into your subconscious over time and changes who you are. Detaching from your old thinking patterns and acting from the new you. So basically, as you do this, you've created the contrast with the new vision. You're mindful of how you're behaving and your old patterns. What's going to happen is you're going to keep running up against these things. You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel lazy. And in these moments, you got to understand that's normal. People think there's something wrong with themselves if they feel lazy. I'm like, no, that's just totally normal. It's like you're in the process of becoming a new version of yourself, and that's not going to happen overnight. So you feel fear to, take a chance on yourself. You feel lazy, but you choose to do the right action anyways. This is the mental work. And what happens when you do that is you weaken that old impulse. And eventually it goes away, but this is not overnight. And people spend years waiting for the impulse to go away. The only way to get rid of the impulse is to just act with the impulse being there and not give a fuck about it, and then it will go away over time. Next thing, REBT, to rewire your brain. This is a major hack that nobody is fucking talking about. This is some inside sauce for those of you who made it 40 minutes into this video, okay? Rational emotive behavioral therapy is what REBT stands for. This is a form of therapy that uses rational thinking to help you break away from negative thinking patterns. This was a total game changer for me, guys. Most therapy, I think, is kind of bullshit. REBT is the exception, because REBT is not about feelings. It's not about blaming your father for all your problems in life. It is purely about just looking at all of these bullshit thinking patterns you have and just being like, that's crap. That's irrational. That's just negative. That's not necessarily true. And just like breaking them down rationally so you can start to see how this is all just garbage in your head and it's not real. This prompt right here, I put in my school community. I wanted to share it with you guys. I use Chat GPT as a therapist. It's better than a therapist because it automatically gives you the answer. This is what I use for Chat GPT. I highly recommend you put this in and you use this every single day. What the prompt says is, using the ideas from REBT therapy, I want you to act as my therapist/coach and help me overcome my negative thought patterns. I believe it is my way of thinking that is causing most of my trouble in my life, from anxiety to lack of motivation or insecurity. What I want to do is describe to you the version of myself I want to become, and then use this chat regularly moving forward to deal with negative emotions and thoughts I'm struggling with and working through them with REBT. Your job is to help me do this and help me start thinking and acting like the man I want to be. You put that prompt into ChatGPT, and then what you're going to do is you're going to tell ChatGPT your vision. You're going to tell it, it's going to be like, okay, well, who do you want to be? It's going to ask you this question. Then you're going to lay out that vision that you wrote out for yourself. You're going to feed it that. It's going to be like, got it. And then what you're going to do is each day go in and journal. You're going to journal, and Chat is going to look at this, and it's going to use REBT to help you recognize your thinking patterns that are keeping you stuck. This is a massive game changer, because think about it. Artificial intelligence is just pure rational thought. That's all it is data and rationale. There's no emotion to the robot, right? So it is the perfect thing to help you think rationally. So all you got to do is you just go in there and you type some shit out. You're like for example, for me, maybe I'm like, today I woke up and I was feeling an enormous amount of doubt about my ability to build a massive brand for myself. All these thoughts coming through my head saying, you'll never make it. You can never do this. I felt lazy. I felt like cutting corners. All that, you start saying this shit, or maybe it's with women or whatever it is, you say this shit, and it will go through and it will literally tell you why this is bullshit, basically. And be like, this isn't necessarily true. This is just old thinking patterns. Here's this thought. And it's like, this isn't true. And here's why. And it will tell you why this isn't necessarily true. It will do it for you. And then you can see it and be like, oh yeah, that's all bullshit. And you just do this every single day. It has been a massive breakthrough in my life. I highly recommend you guys do this. Step 4. You got to take action, okay? So you're isolating yourself, you're doing the mental work, and now we're taking action. Spend all day focused on the work that will bring your vision to life. You got to just really lock the fuck in on this. 12-hour days. You got to be putting in the work. You got to be consuming the right shit. You got to be doing the right actions, whatever that looks like for you. You've got to be doing all of that stuff. And you're going to be confronted with a lot of bullshit when you do this. You want to be asking yourself, what would the new you be doing? Ask yourself that question. If the new you is up early, you get up early. If the new you is a business owner, you work on the business. You don't mentally masturbate about the business. You work on the business, okay? And what's going to happen when you do this is all your old negative thinking patterns will come up to fight you. And this is where the work begins. And this is why this takes 6 months. And this is not an overnight process. Is you got to understand you are going to war with a version of yourself that might have existed for 20 years. It is baked into you at such a deep level that you don't even question it. And when you start on this, you're not even going to notice just how much bullshit is involved in this. But I'll tell you guys, like, I have recently been really like, I need to get into one of these spaces. I need to make like a big step mentally. I need to change as a man. It's not about an external. I have to change first so I can radically change my results in life. And yesterday in particular, I was hit with this unbelievable wall of bullshit. Just like internal bullshit, not external. It's just like feeling like everything was a disaster, feeling like everything was a problem, feeling like I could never do anything, just looking and noticing all the shit that was a problem, noticing all the little behaviors I was doing that were a problem, noticing all the ways I was thinking and how I would just like retreat into like unconscious thought patterns and all this type of shit that I noticed. And I sat there and I was like, fuck, this is a lot. And you know what I did? I actually went to Chat and I told Chat, I was like, I feel like I am fucked and I can't get out of this. This is so much shit I got to fix to become the man I want to be. And Chat literally does the REBT thing on me. And it's like, yeah, this is how this works. You can do this. It's step by step, day by day. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I am overthinking and catastrophizing this. And I got back out of that bullshit. But my point is, that's how this feels. It's going to feel this way. So if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like it's an insurmountable wall that you have to get past, that's how it feels, because you are changing at the core. You are not changing some little habit on the surface. You are changing the very man that you are at a deep level and how you've been behaving for maybe 20 years. Okay? You got to understand, like, this is the fight. This is the war. This is how it goes. This is the battle for transformation. You're thinking different and acting different, and it's going to feel weird. You got to understand that. And you're just going to keep noticing little things that you're doing that are not in alignment with the new version of yourself. And that's another place where you grow. But think about it like this. Every time you notice one of those places where you can grow, you can change it, and you genuinely change your life because you have changed yourself. You've changed your habitual behaviors. If you were a people pleaser and you noticed it, and you noticed that you were always seeking approval from other people, and you notice yourself do it in a certain situation, maybe now you cringe because you're like, fuck, I saw myself do that. I was trying to, like, I was smiling, like, and trying to be all friendly and get this guy to like me just because I was intimidated or nervous of him or something like that. And you're just like, fuck, I saw that. But you saw it, and that's the win, because now you've created the contrast, and now you can change. And now once you've changed, you'll never do it again. And now you've changed as a man. Do you see how powerful this is, guys? This is not some hack. This is what it's really like to change yourself. You'll feel like an imposter. You'll doubt yourself, but you just got to keep going. 6 to 12 months. Do this shit seriously. And don't even set a deadline for this. Just do it until it's done. You'll know when you're done. You'll know when you're like, okay, I got this. Like, you'll feel different. Your world will start changing around you pretty rapidly. Like, it's like the first while, it's all internal shit. And then the external starts catching up. And all of a sudden, everything starts changing really fast for you. And you're like, oh, fuck, I did it. And then you're good, and you can go back out and just live your fucking life. Like, you have changed as a person at the core, and now you're automatically going to behave like the person you want to be. By using step 3, you will be ready to overcome these patterns and change who you are at the deepest level. This is why we need the REBT. This is why we need the mindfulness meditation, all that shit. You got to be ready to go to war with yourself, okay? With the old version of yourself, because it's not really you. It's just shit you're identified with. And if you do this for 6 to 12 months, you are going to transform who you are at the core. This will then change the outer life, but this will take more time. So this is not about you having a Ferrari in 6 months. This is about you being a different man in 6 months, which is far more valuable and will lead to all that other shit. But if you want all the externals, a lot of times it's going to take more time, because you still got to figure shit out. You still got to put in that time. And that's why I say you need to stay single and boring for 3 years. That's why I made the video about that, because that's about, like, you've done the inner work, you've transformed yourself. Now it's like, put in the time to become the ultimate version of yourself. And if you want to watch that video, you can click it. It's on screen right now. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you later.